everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you have the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind, or the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development that the guy who's first is getting?
The whole NFL just stopped scrolling because Tom Brady supposedly turned into a full-blown detective and called out Cleveland for sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, you heard that right. Brady, the same dude who treats a football like it's a sacred relic, just dropped a truth bomb that's shaking up the league. Fans are losing it, wondering if the Browns are running a football team or an undercover spy ring. Something crazy's cooking in Cleveland, and it's way deeper than just bad play calls.
The local Cleveland media keep going relentless on Shedeur. He entitled, distracted, developing slow, can't learn the playbook, not getting practice reps with the scout team, not getting practice reps at all. But what if I told you? Then don't none of that got to do nothing with football. This goes deeper than people realize. If y'all ain't seen it, Tom Brady came out on Colin Cowherd. Now this is pertaining to the Browns saying they developing quarterback.
The NFL definitely wasn't ready for this one. Tom Brady, the man known for treating football like a religion, just transformed into the league's self-appointed truth inspector and aimed his laser sights straight at Cleveland. Yeah, that Cleveland, the one that finds drama even when they swear they're staying low-key. But this time, it ain't about a lawsuit, a rebuild, or that never-ending quarterback shuffle. It's something way bolder.
I sat behind Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp. And we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine. And God rest his soul, unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was obviously a head coach, very involved in defensive game planning.
Nope, this one's way juicier. Brady straight up accused Cleveland of sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. The whole league practically choked on its Gatorade after that bomb dropped. You'd think Tom Brady, the guy who could preach discipline to a brick wall, would be somewhere in retirement mode, sipping kale smoothies and pretending he's loving that quiet yacht life. But nah, he's back stirring up chaos like it's game day again.
Y'all, is either the Browns are actually developing Shedeur, which I told y'all before too. They action say otherwise. But Tom Brady gonna break it down in how he got developed and early on in his career, eventually lead him to 7 Super Bowls. So if quarterbacks not getting developed, anything similar to this?
But apparently not even retirement can shut up a man who spots nonsense from a mile away. What Brady saw in Cleveland wasn't just sloppy management. It was a full-blown circus pretending to be a football organization, and he didn't hold back calling it out. According to Brady, the NFL's got this twisted double standard going on. Players getting judged like they're contestants on some reality show every single second. It's wild.
Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You know you have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense? Outside of that, Shedeur has to be better in understanding that the offensive line that you're working with right now is not adequate. Why not allow the players that are competing for a job, in this instance, Shedeur Sanders, to finish off the 2 minutes.
Every throw, every step, every tiny mistake gets dissected like it's some national security threat. But the coaches, oh, they walk around like untouchable geniuses. They can run an offense straight into the dirt and somehow still get called visionary. Brady wasn't having any of that. He finally said what everyone else has been too scared to say. Some of these coaches wouldn't recognize player development if it smacked them across the face with a laminated playbook. And that's exactly where Shedeur Sanders comes in. The kid's been analyzed more than a science lab frog, while his coaches skate by untouched. Cleveland somehow turned what should have been Shader's big NFL break into something that looks more like a planned setup than a rookie transition. Imagine getting tossed into a new system where development's treated like a bedtime story and then being told you're the problem. That's like asking someone to bake a cake with no flour, then yelling at them for serving air. That's Shedur's reality right now, and Brady wasn't about to let it slide. Cleveland's coaching staff been acting like they had nothing to do with it, grading, evaluating, critiquing. But the second you ask who actually helped develop Shedeur, it's dead silent. Not one coach stepping up to say they really put in the work.
But I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been starting against he's been playing against the third unit. He's fourth on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all. Think about that. So you just gonna throw him to the wolves like that, huh? I mean, you know, if he had first team snaps in practice, I don't say that.
Apparently, Cleveland's idea of player development is tossing a guy a helmet, wishing him luck, and hoping for the best. Then when it all falls apart, they just shrug like, see, he ain't ready. Brady saw straight through that nonsense. The man knows raw talent when he sees it, and he sure knows when a locker room's got toxic vibes. This is the same dude who turned no-name receivers into legends so he can smell lazy coaching from miles away. Cleveland's issue isn't that Shedeur ain't ready, it's that they never even tried to get him ready. And that's where it gets awkward, because when Brady talks, the whole league listens, especially the ones getting roasted. The Browns tried spinning it with their classic PR buzzwords: competition, evaluation, development, but those lines hit empty when your so-called program looks more like organized neglect. It's wild, though. Coaches always scream accountability until it's time to face it themselves. Brady basically said the NFL coaching culture runs like a corporate office. The interns get fired for typos while the managers get promoted for chaos. And right now, Shedeur's just the latest casualty in that broken system.
You know, I always had this theory that quarterbacking should be easier now. You have personal coaching, 7-on-7 camps. I mean, guys like you and Drew Bledsoe and Troy Aikman have told me, like, I literally had 8 high school games a year. You're like, I had 40 starts, including high school. Well, guys now have 10,000 snaps by the time they're 14 years old. So I've always said, as a sports commentator, I used to give guys 3 years. My argument now is Thanksgiving year 2, the GM, the coach, the coordinator need to go upstairs in a room privately, raise their hands, yes or no. And I don't care.
The truth is, Cleveland's coaching chaos has been the league's worst-kept secret for years. One coach swears they're developing a quarterback. Another says, we're just evaluating. And a third probably can't even remember the player's name. It's like every meeting's got a different agenda, and none of them involve actually helping the guy improve. Brady's point hit deep because everyone watching knew he wasn't lying. And just when it couldn't get messier, here comes Stephen A. Smith, the man who turns outrage into an Olympic sport. The second Brady's comments hit the air, Stephen A. didn't just agree, he went nuclear. He's been saying for months that Shedeur's situation reeked of sabotage, not opportunity, straight up entrapment. It's like tossing someone car keys in the middle of a tornado and yelling, "Go prove yourself." You can't build rhythm, timing, or leadership when the only teammates you're practicing with are barely fighting to keep a spot on the practice squad. It's a setup disguised as a test. And everyone's finally starting to notice.
That call, he makes that call. Why? Because I want the last thing people to see is the mistakes and the sacks that happen and not give him a chance to redeem himself. Because I think probably what would have happened, okay, we can't have Shedeur come in here and finish this 2-minute drive and go down and get a touchdown. We don't want that. And in chat, for those of you who are listening and watching, I'm not making any excuses for him. He played bad. But I can tell you why he played bad. I mean, if you know the game of football and understand the game of football, understand that those that are in there with him during that time, I'm not going to be on the team.
And just when the drama couldn't get any spicier, Louis Riddick jumped in. You already know when Riddick speaks up, it's about to get real analytical and real uncomfortable. He didn't sugarcoat a single thing either. Riddick agreed that Shadour's got serious potential, but he tore Cleveland's so-called development plan to shreds. According to him, the reps weren't there, the structure wasn't there, and the intent sure wasn't there. The whole setup was a complete farce. He said exactly what fans were thinking. This wasn't development, it was straight-up delay. Then Riddick went even deeper, pointing out how other young quarterbacks across the league are getting consistent reps, coaching, and patience, while Shadour's been left to figure everything out solo in a playbook that feels more like a jigsaw puzzle. How are you supposed to shine when you don't even know the rhythm of the system? Every snap turns into a high-stakes audition. And the silence from the Browns' leadership, that said it all. If nobody's speaking up for him, that means Shadour's basically an orphan inside the organization. No one fighting for him, no guidance, no accountability, nothing. That's not development, that's career sabotage. And then came the cherry on top, the moment that made this whole saga feel like straight-up football soap opera madness.
Why is the third quarterback getting interviewed? You got nothing to do with the game. Okay, it's all for media clicks. And, he's a heck of a personality, but the personality can't come out till you do something on the field. And, it's a big week for Dylan Gabriel and a big week for the Browns. I mean, making that transition for him even be available to the press. I don't know why he's doing it.
You tell me. You know how that works. Is that the front office? Is that the comms team? Like, who's putting him out? So we're saying it's not really on him. We have to protect him. He's a young player.
Yep.
Why are we making him available?
Exactly. To me, I mean, there's no sense to have him available.
Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, casually dropped a bomb. He admitted he had no clue about Shadour's signing. He straight up said he left that decision to the coaching staff. Like what? How does an owner not know about his own quarterback being brought in? That's not management. That's negligence wrapped in a designer suit. Suddenly, Brady's comments started making perfect sense. How can any player thrive when the people running the show don't even know who's running it? Haslam's I didn't know moment sounded like someone saying, "Oh, we adopted a kid? Cool, hope he's doing all right." That's not how you build an NFL franchise. That's how you breed chaos. And if you thought Stephen A. was fired up before, wait till he heard that. The man went off like a storm. He said what everyone else was too scared to admit. Haslam's cluelessness wasn't an accident, it was strategy. The perfect way to dodge accountability while acting innocent. And just like that, another young quarterback's story got rewritten before it even had a chance to start. Brady's explosion stopped looking like a rant and started sounding like a revelation. He wasn't just standing up for Shadour. He was standing up for every young quarterback getting chewed up and spat out by broken systems just like this.
Does he get thrown in there with the Wolves? Because the real Wolves come during the season. Yeah. Pittsburgh is coming. Baltimore is coming. The real Wolves is coming. Now, I am praying to God that Shadour gets an opportunity to show what he can really do. And I think that would be probably the best thing for him. But knowing the Cleveland Browns, they dumbass gonna trade.
The league's packed with coaches recycling the same tired excuses, always evaluating talent, but never actually putting that talent in position to shine. And now Shadour's become the prime example of just how broken that formula really is. The wild part? The irony cuts deep, because Tom Brady himself used to be in Shadour's shoes. Drafted low, doubted by everyone, barely getting any reps. The only difference? He had Bill Belichick, a coach who, for all his quirks, actually believed in building players up instead of tearing them down. If Brady hadn't been given that chance, the world might have never seen the GOAT we know today. That's exactly why his words hit so hard. He's living proof that proper development changes everything. Brady knows the signs when a player's getting robbed of opportunity. He called out how this toxic culture keeps blaming players for every mistake while coaches hide behind fancy buzzwords. It's a system where egos run wild and accountability disappears, a place where coaching feels less like leadership and more like an ego contest with headsets.
I've heard ex-players talk about Shadour. I've heard ex-NFL coaches. I've heard media members, meaning like beat reporters. I've heard fans talk about Shadour. And it's funny, I was on with my buddy Bill Ryder today, and I declared myself as Switzerland. And he's like, well, it sounds like you're more, like maybe, I can't remember what he said, but basically the more positive about Shedeur than not. And I was like, well, I think some of my positivity is I look at the kid and I go, skill set wise, I think he has what it takes to be anywhere from the 13th best starting quarterback in the NFL.
And you know what's even funnier? Cleveland's coaches really thought they could quietly bench Shedeur like nobody would notice. As if the entire football world isn't watching every snap, every depth chart tweak, every suspicious little move. Then Brady spoke up, and suddenly their whole strategy looked less like management and more like a straight-up cover-up. It's almost poetic. Brady, the guy who built his career on structure and discipline, now calling out a system that refuses to build either. He's like that retired professor who walks back into class only to find students still being fed the same outdated nonsense he fought to fix 2 decades ago. But this time, the stakes are sky high. Millions of dollars and one young quarterback's entire future. And let's not act like Shedeur's some random rookie. The kid's got pedigree, real talent, and that undeniable swagger. He's not just playing the game, he is the game right now. Meanwhile, the Browns coaching staff will probably walk away untouched, holding their usual pressers, tossing around their favorite buzzwords: growth, learning curve, development, pretending they didn't just fumble another future star.
Consistent, that's what you asked for. You know, that's what you asked for within the game. If I could go back and do anything, I mean, it's always everything in life if you had that chance, but we don't have the luxury to travel back in time. As a kid, I want to go back and do things differently. So overall, of course, you know, you wish you can, but in the battle of the moment, in the heat of the battle, you know, you want to be that alpha, you want to be that dog, you want to be out there in that final 2-minute drive. So, you know, of course, small things, of course, frustrate, but that's what happens, you know, when you want a player to be able to
Meanwhile, Shedeur's the one left picking up the pieces, trying to rebuild his confidence while those same coaches keep cashing checks like nothing ever happened. Accountability? Nowhere to be found. Brady's message sliced straight through all the noise. If you're going to judge players like pros, then hold coaches to that same standard. Don't praise them just for rocking team gear and giving motivational speeches. Judge them on results, on how well they actually prepare their players. Because at the end of the day, a quarterback's success depends as much on his environment as it does on his arm. And now the ripple from Brady's words is shaking the whole league. Analysts, fans, even ex-players are calling out the hypocrisy. How come players lose their jobs over one bad game, but coaches can tank multiple careers and still get contract extensions? It's insane. Brady just threw a spotlight on the biggest imbalance in football, so when Tom Brady speaks, it ain't gossip. It's a warning shot. He's voicing what players have been whispering for years. Coaching is the NFL's biggest unmeasured variable. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your staff doesn't believe in you, you're doomed before you even take that first snap.
Now, he's got to put in the work. He's got to adapt to the NFL. He's got to adapt to not being coached by his dad. But physically, when we talk about physical talent, the concerns I have about Dillon Gabriel aren't there with Shedeur. Now, I would not have taken him with a number 2 pick under any circumstances. I might have thought about it at 33 or 35. I definitely would have thought about it at 92 over Dillon Gabriel. But the truth is, like, I don't feel beholden to either of these quarterbacks. Like, we should treat them like scratch-off lottery tickets until proven otherwise. But I'm watching the discourse fall out with Shedeur Sanders. And the latest one's pantomiming, but certainly the one before this was him saying that he feels like he could do better than a lot of starting quarterback stuff you see around the NFL, and that he's confident he'll be ready to go when his numbers.
And honestly, if Brady hadn't spoken up, this whole mess probably would have vanished into the offseason fog. But now, every single thing Cleveland does is under the microscope. Every rep Shedeur takes, every quote, every decision, all of it's being watched like evidence in a trial. Because when the GOAT calls you out, you don't just shrug it off, you face the heat. And the irony of it all? It's almost poetic. This isn't just about Cleveland. It's about a league that still hasn't figured out how to protect its own future. A system where politics keeps beating progress and loyalty keeps outsmarting logic. Maybe it's time the NFL stops pretending this is all about competition. Maybe it's time to admit the real game doesn't always happen on the field. It happens behind closed doors, in meetings, back rooms, and whispered calls, where careers get shaped or destroyed before the first whistle even blows. And until that game changes, Brady's words are going to keep echoing through every locker room. Because if coaches can't build their players up, maybe it's time we start rebuilding the coaches.